So what we're going to do today is finish chapter 13. And I think the way to describe this is it's not that what we've been doing a lot of in some of these previous courses where you're doing hard thinking and hard programming and problem solving. A lot of what you're doing now is syntax. You know, I can do a lot of creative things with the display, and it's a lot of keystrokes. But as far as solving a problem, you know, bringing in math logic and so forth, you don't have that so much. And again, there's lots of typing going on here. There's lots of cutting and pasting. There's lots of reusing old code and fixing it to make it look nicer. And you start to think, well, if I'm a programmer, I could see where I could get a job and it's working for Sal's Pizza. And Sal says, hey, I want you to change the screen and I want you to include this, that, and the other thing. So a lot of programmers say, yeah, their job isn't writing new code, it's fixing up older code. Okay, so 13.4, starting there, we have this thing called a list view control. And what it does, it displays the items nice for us in a list, okay, in a nice list. And, you know, depending on dealing with size, number of items, I could have just the list, or I could have a scroll bar that gets incorporated. And 13.17 was a code listing that you typed in, but I want to make a quick note, and I'm going to have to be jockeying my camera around here. First of all, I start to see list view string, and then I create an object, object-oriented programming, dog list view. But one of the things I want to point out is I always say less than greater than operator. Then I teach this section and I remember it's called the diamond operators. And then tomorrow I forget that they were called the diamond operators. But list view inside of the diamond operators, we have string because we're going to deal with a string. Strings, of course, work the best here. You can work with other things, but string is gonna work really well. So I create the object list view. To it, I add 1, 2, 3, a bunch of dogs to that string. Getting the data, and when you type the program, hopefully you got get selected mode, get the item selected. It's going to store it in a string. So when the user clicks on an item, okay, it depends on how you have it set up. You could have a button to make this event happen, or you could have an action handler to make it happen. But once something's selected, we're going to go from there. So you have this list view. You know, again, this is one of those, you become a faster typer. You get now blocks of working code that you can use later. So lots of good things coming out of these code listings. I will be giving you some from the book later today because it gets to be a lot to type in. And, you know, with our blendedness of class, there's only so much I can expect you to do fairly. All right, so I'm going to create it. I set aside again the size, again the pixels, 120 by 100. We got Steve, Bethany, Will, and Katrina. Some exciting people. And when you ran it, you clicked get the selection, whichever one is selected, and simply displayed it. Not too bad, okay? Not too bad. Again, I have my notes here, get selected. I store it in selected, and then I want to display it. Okay. Any questions on something that's going on with that? Now, the other thing is if I didn't want to just directly get the string, I have the option of getting the index, because those strings are stored in an array of sorts. And if I clicked on Bethany, as you can see in the notes, it says index 1. So that's something that's common with the next few controls that we talk about, where I can select one and I can get the actual item selected, or I can get its index. And as you know, there's a way to do multiple selections, and we'll take a look at that as a group in a moment. Okay, so as I mentioned a second ago, we had we had a button to get the selection. And if we click Bethany, down in here, we had Bethany's name appear. The other option is to respond. Oh, let me get my camera back up here. Is to create an event handler. So as soon as it's selected, something happens. I don't need a button to generate an action. I can go right into, when I click it, having the event handler. And I believe you folks did type in 1319. That's this code listing. And I hope you got the idea of how this was different than the last one. Again, one was a button, one was an event occurring, and how we go through and handle it. And you typed it up. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Speaking of programs, there's heavy duty discussion on the discussion board right now. It's talking about some of those Sal's pizza programs, and you ought to be commended. There's a lot of really neat and clever things going on there. And I'm glad you took off and ran with that. And I couldn't award one person 15 points. I had to award a couple just because of the different approaches. And yeah, somebody even looked at one and said, oh, now I'm hungry for pizza. And yeah, it was a nice video with a hot and juicy cheese stretching kind of pizza in the background. But so good job. Get into that discussion. That's beyond what I've learned, and you folks can take off with that. It'll look good in a portfolio. Okay, down at the bottom, it's not really a program to go with it, but hopefully, this is one of those things. I'm pretty sure I heard that you can add items to this list versus having the list to start. Steve, Bethany, Will, and Katrina was a list to start. We went from there. I want to be able to add items. I can. It's not necessarily in, but we can go through and add them as we go if we really wanted to. A couple of different ways to do it. And as I said, yeah, boy, we can't, it'd be great to write a program to do that, to write a program to do this, but we have to pick and choose what we can cover here. Okay, so camera, crooked, there we go. As I mentioned earlier, with this list view, this control where I have a list view, I can select an item. Fantastic. And that's what we just looked at. We looked at pick an item, click a button, or click an item and handle an event. Well, I can also do the multiple selection. And a lot of you already know, click on one, hold the control button down, and you're able to click on multiple ones. And part of your next assignment is you're going to allow the user to pick multiple items here if they want. Imagine going back to your pizza program and have a list of items like paper plates, napkins, plasticware, and you could click on things you want, ketchup, salt, pepper. Adding this into a program would be kind of neat. As you can see, we have the selection mode that goes with it. One of them is multiple, one is single, and we can go from there. Just like before, when I select, I can get multiple items this time in an array of strings, or I can get all of the indexes, as you see below. Just keep in mind that these are all things you can do. Okay? I can do this, I can do that. And it's even in this fine textbook. 1320. This was one you typed in as well. You had the months. And you were, let's see if I look at the running of it. You were able to pick months, pick multiple months. Again, this wouldn't be one to do an event handler. You would want to have a button to generate that action because you want to be selecting several up here. Here's what's selected, stored, I'm assuming in an array. Does anybody remember if it was stored in an array of strings or indices?
I think it was strings.
The strings. So when you went through, there was probably a loop that allowed you to print all of those out. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think we put it in like an observable list or something and then did
Right.
the transfer there. Yeah.
That's what, you mean an observable list right there. Good. Okay. And you know, there's still more things going on in this section. It's a long butt section. And you know, you even finish up, wow, could I do something with my cards and so forth? And we did have some really good programs when we were doing the casino, when we were doing the slot machine. And I hope you kind of like, I'm guessing y'all would recommend I keep that in my curriculum to do that program. Uh-oh, everybody froze up. Somebody move there. Okay, nobody froze up. Keep it in the curriculum. Did you like it or not?
That's pretty fun.
Okay, so as you can see, what I'm trying to do with a lot of these programs is I'm trying to keep an eye on students. By me giving you guidelines and making you write something personalized, it's a little easier than some of you who go on some of those illegal websites and steal stuff that others uploaded from me. Stinking slimy, no good. All right, 13.5. These are kind of cool. You're familiar with them. You know, this has Microsoft Word written all over it. A lot of these things we're doing. And 13.5, we get into something called a combo box. Well, a combo box, again, will allow you to select an item from it, but it's going to look a little bit different because when it's created with this kind of a button that you click on. Okay, and again, this is blank, could have something on it there if I wanted to in the constructor, add a name, but I click on it and it gives me a list. So it's kind of like a button with a label on it of some sort, and then a drop down list where I can go through and select what I want to select. So you've seen combo buttons. The layout, you know, all of these are starting to become repetitive, which is good. I instantiate an object. What are these less than, greater than called? Because I forgot already.
The diamond operators?
Diamond operators. Okay, good. Diamond operators around it. You know, I'm gonna come down and I'm gonna add these items into my combo box, a lot like we just did a little while ago. Put them in the combo box. With every class, I have a whole bunch of methods, and some of the methods that I can use. Here's a good one. Set editable value. Say that really fast a couple of times. Editable, yeah. So I can get the items. Again, I don't want to spend a ton of time because I want you to be typing. And you did, in fact, do 1323. You made a combo box. You picked a country, and then you were able to display it. As I said before, we're starting to get globs and globs of code, but I think a lot of you are starting to get much better at what's up here, so I don't have to retype certain things. What's in here, you know, that whole start of the program, and then where do I go from there? Well, there's the certain steps. It's create the control, put the control in the scene, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, again, I'm going to have a button to create an action. My other choice is to write an event handler, so I don't need this button. So when Scotland is selected, yada, 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 something could happen right away. Keeping that concept alive. Okay. Give me an example of an editable combo box. Well, I'm going to go back to Microsoft Word. Is there a menu item in Word that is a combo box, but you can type in your own thing if you want to?
Like the text size or the text
Yeah,
font.
yeah, exactly. Font size. So when I see this right away, I think font size. I'm going, oh, okay. I got I can, it starts out, the default is 12. But when I click on it, I see 8, 9, 11, 12, 14, 20, 24. And sometimes I want to use my own font size instead of what's provided. So this comes under this title of an editable, not edible, editable combo box. Cool. I like it. It's there. 13.6. Any questions up to this point on the combo box, which was 13.5, or the list view control, which was 13.4? All right. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to ask Andrew to go load up his slot machine real quick. Can you do that, Andrew? Andrew said yes. Quick reminder, if you hold the space bar down, you can unmute temporarily. Is there an Andrew here?
Yeah, I'm here.
You're here. Okay, I can hardly hear you. Would you mind loading your slot machine program back up?
Okay.
Cool. All right. So I have a slider. I have horizontal sliders. I have vertical sliders. This would be great. This would be great to teach in a high school classroom where you have 180 days to do this, because you could actually really get to play with some of these and combine some of these. But we can do sliders, not like the cheeseburger sliders you can get at the store. This is regular sliders. Like I said, we have horizontal, we have vertical. Couple of things to talk about this slider. Well, you can see the term slider knob, and we can click on it, hold it, move it left and right. You see tick marks. You have major tick marks, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. You have minor tick marks, and you determine all of that when you set it up. You can also set your default. Where do you want this slider knob to be when your program runs? Well, in this case, it looks like it's at 25. Slider program would be great for converting temperature, because we all convert temperature all the time, right? Celsius to Fahrenheit and Fahrenheit to Celsius. So yeah, no, not so much. But what about recipes? Because I see a lot of recipes online on Tasty, on Facebook, and they give the amounts in grams. 450 grams of sugar. I don't know if I had a quick slider on like this, made it in an app and had it on my phone, for the conversions for cooking would be great, because we still use the old English style. All right, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to take a look at this constructor, and I see I create a new slider from the class slider. I have 0 to 50 and 25. All right, so if I can write up a minimum value is 0, a maximum value is 50, the initial value is 25. So I'm able to put that slider knob at 25 to start. Oh, so many methods, so little time. Talked a moment ago about setting major ticks, minor ticks. Okay, and lots of different things. So many methods, so little time. So if you ever really, really wonder why we have all those import statements in Java, because if everything was included in the package at once, you can see where it would be humongous. Okay, slider demo. First things first. Andrew, are you ready?
Yeah. Good.
Go ahead, you can share your screen.
Okay. Okay, so here's the actual slider part.
Mhm.
And then when I run it, yeah, it was kind of interesting. When I was doing this, I noticed that it was only when you actually released the mouse button did it update. I kind of wished it was the other way around, but
It would change as you went.
yeah. Yeah, so like when you're sliding, it doesn't change. It only updates when you
Right.
release.
So one of the things that may have helped is for you to put the tick marks in, so you could have an idea of where you are.
Mhm.
Like in your constructor, put a beginning and an ending value kind of deal. So just a thought.
Yeah.
Yep. But anyhow, he used that slider in his program. I thought it was pretty cool. Wanted to pull and give everybody's attention to that. Okay. Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate it. I
Yep.
believe on D2L, you should have a slider demo. If you want to go and get it and load it up, it's me giving it to you. And this again is that Fahrenheit to Celsius. And when you run it, kind of a neat little program. Maybe if you lived up like in Buffalo or some hideous place like that, you would get the weather in Celsius and Fahrenheit and you'd want to compare. But Matthew, you're saying no. Did you live in Buffalo?
Why the hate for Buffalo
I
today?
know, there's no hate. We have Buffalo
Buffalo
wings.
love.
I love buffalo wings. Buffalo wings. So take a look at that slider program. And again, you should be seeing something along the lines of this, where you're at and how it converts and fills in for what the temperature would be. Now, as a user, I'm going, I don't know that I get it. Might take me a while, but the slider bar is actually the Celsius, and it's doing a conversion to the Fahrenheit for me. So the average Joe might need a little more instruction on there, but again, it's a simple demo. Okay. Did you catch that, Andrew? Message from Matthew. This one updates as it moves.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I see you have a add listener for the slider.
Yeah.
Mine was a like the on mouse click.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Here's what he's talking about. Line 60. When I register slider.value, add listener.
Yeah, I should have done that.
Yeah. And again, this is one of those where there's no way I can expect you to have all of this stuff memorized, but you need to know it exists so that you can actually mess around with it. All right, the next one. Text area. This is nice because we've done text boxes, but let me get a little closer. Our text boxes were a little bit too small. And this guy actually is like a big old text field. And as you see, the text field, this text field allows me to get multiple lines. It's bigger than what a little text box was. So another new control allows you to accept having several lines of input. We can put a default in if we wanted to. And a lot of times you've seen that. I know when I'm in Word and I go to get a new text box and drag it and I put it on my page, there's default language underneath there that when you click on it, it goes and we can add it. So again, this is like inserting a text box in Word, but it's called a text field control. It's kind of neat, I think. Not going to spend a lot of time with that. The next one is a menu. On D2L, I did in fact give you menu. It's called simple menu. It's going to match up here with code listing 1326. And it would in fact create a simple menu. Now, in order to, and we're gonna work on this in a little bit. I also gave you text menu, which does a little bit more. Simple menu just had a file and a thingy and one of those thingies. And okay, time to back up. I'm going over here. Why am I all cattywampus today? This should be there. That should be there. and this should be here. Okay, I'm on page 888, and I need to get the lingo down. A menu bar. Okay, I'm okay with a menu bar. That's what runs across the top. When I click on one of the items on the menu bar, it shows me a menu. Okay, that's the list that we have dropped down. Menu item is when I go and select one of them. Like if I go and click file and then I go down to save, we have check menu items where I could have check boxes. We have radio menu items. And then we have sub menus. You've seen menus come out of menus. You go to a certain menu item, and when you hover over it, that's a term, that hovering, it will show you a sub menu to appear. Okay, and then finally, there's something called a separator bar, which helps, but I didn't have. So I have a menu bar that shows a menu with menu items, and I have some terminology. Okay, so when I come over here, where are you? And take a look at this, my menu bar only has file on it. And when I click on file, it only has one menu item, and that's exit. Okay, but that's start, baby steps, baby steps. We need to create the bar, put the menus on, up here, here we go, create the bar, create the menus, create the items, start to put everything on there. Not another code listing I really needed you to type up. Text menu is here. Okay, now all of a sudden I see I have a couple of things going on. My menu bar has file and text. File will let me exit. Of course, file can do all kinds of other things. Save, save as, print. That's what you commonly see under file. Under text, we have the colors of the text. We have visible, visible and invisible. Other things we could have under this text, we could have font sizes. We could do all kinds of things like that if we really wanted to get into all that. So if you loaded up text menu item, you should have gotten, oh boy, there's several lines of code, 155. But you should see hello world, and you can get on there and change it to black, red, green, blue, and so forth. All right, something that's kind of cool, and you start to go, oh yeah, okay. That is adding a mnemonic to one of these menu items. Right, so it's kind of a shortcut. Instead of scrolling and on and on and on, we are going to set it up as a mnemonic, which if I look down here at file, when this displays, it would display as a capital F underline, which means if I want to get to that, I would hold Alt down and then click the F. Here's a mnemonic for X. The X is underlined. If I wanted to get to X quickly, I could do that. So mnemonics are kind of nice to put in there because they are shortcuts and we learn a lot of them. So you've seen that before. And here's a quick example. Here's Alt F and the file is underlined. It's called a mnemonic. We are just flying through this, but I don't know what to do to teach it slower. That kind of makes sense. Okay. This is awesome as well. I'd love to have time to have us write code to do these things. A lot of what we just finished, we're going to be using in our next program. Not all of it. And it's a program where you're going to pick something you like. Don't use skateboards unless we have a what's the terminology for a skateboarder? There's got to be
Skater, I guess.
just a skater. Yeah, I guess it's just a skater head or something like that. But yeah, this is nice. this will already be set up for us at Skaterhead. Yeah, I was kind of good. Skater buoy. Okay, yeah, we're going now. Like, see, you sidetracked me too quick. Anyhow, okay, so you got this. I can do this thing called a file. I can use the file chooser class that will allow me to open a file. Way back when we started talking about files, we said, please enter the name of a file, and it would be scores.txt, and we type it in. If it worked, great. If it didn't, that was crazy. And then we looked at catching files so it didn't crash if file wasn't found. We handled that and so forth. But a way to help even solve that problem is to have this file chooser come up. And there's even color chooser. The color chooser menu, when you want to mess with colors, you can do that. There's no program to go with it, but file chooser, again, I instantiate an object of the class file chooser, set it up, boom, it appears and you're ready to roll. Again, I'm not making you memorize this. I'm making you understand that it exists and realize if I want to put that in my program, I can. Like I said, just like file chooser, there's color chooser and some other things. He actually cut those out of the book. All right, so I'm going back to text menu. I'm going back then to text menu. I talked a lot. We did some work in the beginning, but I'm coming back to text menu, and we're going to add 2 more menu items to this bar. The first one is going to be size, and that would in fact be font size. So, when you ran this below, you had hello world up here. Word. Hello world, Wordle. No, not Wordle. Hello, yeah, hello Wordle. Man, Wordle was tough today, but I got it. Still using slate as my first word. Remember we talked about that well, I can tell you how many days ago we talked about that, 44, because I think that's what my streak is. So I'd like to have size as an option, and I'd like to have one more on here, and I don't know what you want to call it, but I'd like to be able to do bold, italic, underline, that trio. I'm sure italic and underline. I'm sure it has a name, that trio of items. So not in the format. All right, we'll call it format. This is format. Lots of things I can do with format, but I was just wondering if bold, italic, and underline had their own special grouping name. The trinity of format. I don't know. So size, can I set this up where I add another menu bar item? Size, I go down and I click one. Can I do format? You only have about 25 minutes, but that's what I'd like you to mess around with. Now, again, instead of working by yourself, you know how I feel about, you go into group, you have one person typing, some researching, some looking in the book, so forth and so forth. And that's why, that's our, somebody just sent a message, best advantage of breakout rooms. Font style, okay, font style, like that as well. So you can do what you want in your group. And Alan is still here. That's a good sign. So I'm going to put you in groups. I want you to mess around with that. If you have any questions about the selected topics quiz before now on Thursday, let me know. I will, while you're working right now, work on putting a better one up for the recursive functions. Okay. Any questions? 4 groups of 4. Good luck on Thursday. Let me know if you have any questions.